Thank you for joining us for Turn the Page with Paige, brought to you by Southwestern Illinois College. I'm your host, Paige Holsey. Today's children's book takes us to the heart of Kenya, where golden savanna stretch as far as the eye can see, and one little girl dares to dream big. In Lion Protector, the girl imagines herself tracking poachers, racing against time to save majestic lions. First, though, she has to overcome the doubters who say only boys can become wildlife rangers. The book was inspired by the real-life Team Lioness, the first female wildlife rangers in southern Kenya. Author Natalie Heberlie from the Metro East joins us in studio today, and I'm fascinated by the story behind the story. So I want to learn all about it, okay? First, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me about how you learned about Team Lioness, this group of women who work to protect lions, because they're the real deal.
Yes. So I had been to this area of Kenya a couple of times doing some clean water projects, and my friend Patrick, who was working with the charity that I originally was working with, became director of these women. He's the director of the Rangers in Kenya, and he posted about it on Facebook, and so I was just connecting with him about it.
What is their daily life like?
So they spend 3 weeks working and 1 week at home. So when they're working, they are going on foot patrol, just kind of going through the area, seeing if they can find any signs of poaching, any traps. They're talking to the local community to see if they know anything, if they're having any conflicts with wildlife, because they want to deter those conflicts before they escalate.
And so when this all-women force started, that was a big deal, right? Because normally this is a job reserved for men?
Yes, it was a big deal, and it's only been since 2019.
So it's new?
Yes.
This is like revolutionary.
Yes. So these women were the first women in their communities to have employment. They're the first women in southern Kenya to hold this position of wildlife rangers.
So what made you say this story should be a children's book?
Well, I was not thinking about writing a children's book. I was in the middle of a pandemic. I'm a healthcare worker. I was just meditating one day, and a message came that said, write a book. And I thought that was crazy. But I listened, and he thought about these women, reached out to my friend Patrick, asked him what he thought about the idea, and he loved the idea. And then he connected me with the individual women, so I had started developing a relationship with them.
Tell me more about what happens in the book itself, Lion Protector.
So the main character is Purity, and she's a real person. She's a real wildlife ranger, and she is just walking and sees some lion footprints and just is kind of loving, just kind of walking with them, and then she sees other tracks that she knows belong to a poacher. And so she kind of follows nature's clues to find this lion before the poacher finds the lion.
You finished this book and then you took it back to Kenya, right?
Yes.
You showed it to these women whose real stories are represented in this book. What did they say or think? How did they react when they saw that their life story was now going to be shared through a children's book?
Yeah, they were all very excited. The communities that they live in, the Maasai tribe, they're all very patriarchal. The women do all of the work and get none of the credit. So to see themselves portrayed in a book as powerful, as strong, as doing some things, and even there's some women in the book that aren't the main characters, that aren't the rangers, they're just community members. When they saw pictures of themselves in a book, they thought it was just really special. They just couldn't believe that somebody who looked like them was in a book.
Yeah, that representation, so important. How is this book now going to help their mission?
So all the proceeds from the book are donated back to them. So whether it's helping to buy uniforms, day-to-day things that they need to live and survive in their camp for work, or to help support their families. Most of these women are not only supporting their children, but their parents and siblings. So it's helping just their overall lives.
When you and I chatted before, you mentioned that the locals seemed to be quite impressed that the illustrations were so accurate. Talk about the illustration process, because what I love about this is that you worked with an illustrator from this area, Kinsey Wolk. So what was what were your conversations like with Kinsey to make sure that it was portrayed in a way that the locals there in Kenya would be proud of?
Yeah, so I first reached out to Kinsey and told her I had this idea to write a book, and then I had no idea what I was doing, but because I loved her art so much and her as a person, asked if she would be a part of it, and she said yes. She's like, I also don't know what I'm doing. I'm an artist, but I'm not an illustrator, and so we figured it out together, and it was great. But yes, I just took my pictures from my time in Kenya. So each page, I would show her a picture of, the elephants and the areas where the elephants were, or the zebras drinking by water, and she would take my pictures and make beautiful art out of them.
Kinsey couldn't be here today, but I've had the honor of interviewing her before for a different mural project that she was working on, and she's so talented. You two go way back.
So I grew up in St. Genevieve, Missouri, and she is married and now living in St. Genevieve, and we have mutual friends and family members.
Well, I'm glad that relationship allowed this book to come to life.
Yes, I am so grateful for her artwork. It really made the book very special.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, well, before you go, would love to hear your recommendation for a children's book from another author.
So the books that I always read to my son, Sandra Boynton, we loved her. Whether it was bedtime or in the middle of the day, it didn't matter. They're fun. It makes you feel like a little song and a dance. And just it didn't matter what kind of mood anybody was in, you could read her books and just be elevated.
You're absolutely right about that. Yeah, and she has so many, and they're favorites in our house too. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing this story. It's really inspiring to learn about the women who are every day working as true lion protectors. Quite amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you at home for joining us today as well. We hope to see you back here again for another episode of Turn the Page with Paige.